I was recently asked, what's the best natural product for hot flashes? My answer was, well, that all depends. I know this isn't the answer that she wanted to hear, and I do apologize for that, but it's the truth. Every woman is such a unique, beautiful individual with different triggers, and nothing is going to work for everyone. But I can give you some clues as to what might improve your symptom picture. You are listening to Menopause Natural Solutions, episode 103, Feelin' Hot, 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 Tips for Hot Flash Relief. Welcome to Menopause Natural Solutions, your podcast for all things perimenopause, menopause and beyond. Stay tuned as your host, naturopath Jennifer Harrington, explains how to use natural therapies to find your ultimate health and happiness during your transition. Hi ladies, it's Jen here. Thank you for joining me today as we discuss all things hot flash related. When you consider symptoms of the menopausal transition, did you know some women breeze through without a care in the world? I actually met one of these women this week. She came to see me in postmenopause, wanting to tweak a few things to optimize her health moving forward. I would say roughly 20% of women are as lucky as she is. But at the other end of the spectrum, roughly 20% of women are at the extreme other end, where the most of us are in the middle somewhere. We all end up with lower hormone levels, and we all stop menstruating, but we all have very different experiences. And a lot of this can be put down to our differences in life experiences. If you consider the average age of menopause is 51, that's 51 years of different experiences we have all had. We've had different stresses, different toxin loads, different diets, different routines, different levels of social support, different genetics, and the list goes on. What I love most about my job is being a detective. I need to consider what it is about you that is different from everyone else and causing your symptoms. And I realized my last podcast on this topic was way back in June of 2019. So it's time we spoke about hot flashes again. The previous episode was episode number 2, and it is the second most downloaded podcast I have produced. I re-listened to this episode today, and can I tell you it's as relevant today as it was the day I recorded it. So if you are suffering from hot flashes, after you finish listening to this episode, please go back and listen to number 2. As I'm not going to repeat the same information as I discussed then, instead what I've done over the last few days is to look at the research that has been published this year, 2021, on hot flashes. It surprised me that there's been 142 studies. You can see why it took me a few days to go over it. But the biggest theme that I saw in the research was the link between the lack of sleep and hot flashes. But before we get into that, I wanted to discuss the hot flash statistics that StatPearl released in January. They found that hot flashes increased in frequency and severity in the 12 months leading up to the menopause diagnosis. So just a reminder, the diagnosis of menopause is 12 months after your last menstrual period. So it's in that waiting game between your last period and the diagnosis that hot flashes tend to be the worst. The average episode lasts less than 5 minutes, and the average frequency varies from 10 times a day to several times a week. And it doesn't matter if your symptoms are below average or above average. If they negatively affect your life, it's time to seek help. The gold standard of treating hot flashes is menopausal hormonal therapy, but not all women want this or are a suitable candidate for it. So here at Menopause Natural Solutions, we look at other non-pharmaceutical options. Now back to sleep. The American Study of Sleep Medicine found hot flashes were more frequent among women with interrupted sleep patterns. In fact, there were 4 studies showing a clear link between sleep disturbances and increased frequency and severity of hot flashes. The problem is it's not that easy to fix sleep disturbances. But I was happy when I found further research looking at both sleep and hot flashes. There are a couple of successful studies looking at wearable cooling devices. I also found a paper on progressive muscle relaxation technique for improving sleep and decreasing hot flashes, and another one on the benefits of cognitive behavioral therapy. Both progressive muscle relaxation and cognitive behavioral therapy help with reducing the stress response and improving mood, as well as helping with sleep and hot flashes. And these are 2 techniques. You don't have to swallow any pills. You don't have to worry about interactions. So please have a look for both progressive muscle relaxation or cognitive behavioral therapy, because that might be something you want to add to what you're already doing. But there was another study looking at aromatherapy, in particular looking at smelling lavender essential oil before bed. And this may be another option to enhance your overall sleep quality, reduce your hot flashes, and improve your mood. If you are experiencing disturbed sleep and you think this is a contributing factor in your hot flashes, you may like to go back and listen to episode number 7 on improving menopausal sleep for additional ideas. Today's podcast is proudly sponsored by Nutrafol. Nutrafol offers women a clinically effective way to experience thicker, stronger, and faster growing hair. I've used Nutrafol myself. If you have met me, you would know I have thick and long hair, so you may wonder why I tried it. But I wanted to see if it would help with hair falling. You see, I had hair all over my place. The lounge, the bed, the bathroom, the car, it was hair-mageddon. And yes, I did see noticeable improvements. So if you want to experience thicker, stronger, faster growing hair and support my show by going to Nutrafol.com and using promo code MNS, new customers will get 20% off. This is their best offer available anywhere, plus 3 shipping on every order. Get 20% off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code MNS. Now back to the hot flashes research. I was pleased to see new research on the benefits of acupuncture, reducing hot flashes and other menopausal symptoms. But I'll leave this for now, because in a few weeks I have licensed acupuncturist Laurie Stone joining me to discuss the role that acupuncture can play in symptom reduction during your transition. So make sure you have hit subscribe so you don't miss out on that conversation. Research from the Midlife Women's Health Study looked at the role of phthalate exposure on the development of hot flashes. Phthalates are environmental chemicals found in multiple sources, but the most problematic being from plastic. Think plastic water bottles, plastic storage containers, cooking utensils, etc. They found phthalate contamination to be strongly correlated with the development of hot flashes. One of the tests I consider for my patients is a urine test called GPL Tox. It looks at not only phthalates, but also 172 other chemical toxins that could be causing health issues. For me, it's really important to get to the underlying cause of your symptoms. So if phthalate contamination is a problem, we can identify it and we can treat it and hopefully get to a long-term resolution of symptoms. Let's look at diet. The number one dietary change I recommend women start at this stage of life is to reduce sugar. So I love it when I find research along this line. The next paper I found had a strong association between metabolic syndrome and hot flashes. Metabolic syndrome increased hot flashes, but hot flashes increased metabolic syndrome. So you can see it's a vicious cycle. And what came first, the chicken or the egg? But the best way to break this chain is to remove sugar from your diet and focus on improving your insulin sensitivity. Finally, we're going to look at the herbal studies. I found studies looking at the effectiveness of herbs such as red clover, black cohosh, and withania. I want to chat to you today about withania because it's one of my favorite herbs and I don't think I've mentioned it on the podcast before. In some parts of the world, it's called ashwagandha. In a study only published last month, 100 symptomatic perimenopausal women were divided into two, an active and a control group. The active group was given 300 milligrams of root extract twice daily for 8 weeks. The report found these women experienced significant changes to mood and stress levels. It reduced their menopausal symptoms, and surprisingly, they also found lower FSH and LH and higher estrogen levels. This surprised me as withania is not a phytoestrogen. It is an adaptogen. It helps build resistance to stress. It is one of the first herbs I think of in regards to stress and mood issues, but now it's also one that I think of for hot flashes. I hope you can see from this list that there isn't one best natural product for hot flashes. It is so multifactorial. I hope I have given you fuel for thought as you consider if you have any of these contributing factors. Lifestyle factors like lack of sleep, environmental factors like phthalate toxicity, dietary factors like blood sugar issues, or if stress is at the core of your symptoms. That's all from me this week. If you have found this information useful, please share it with a friend. And don't forget that I offer one-on-one naturopathic consultations if you need a hand with your transition. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Menopause Natural Solutions. This podcast contains general information about menopause. It is provided as a guide, and it is not intended to replace medical advice. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend.